Hi, I'm Sam Glassenberg, CEO and founder of LevelX. You might remember me from my talk at Social Innovation Summit last year. It's available on YouTube if you haven't seen it. There's a link in my summit bio. We had a great time. We performed a very graphic colonoscopy live on stage. We placed a virtual patient on the stage and intubated him live in front of 1,000 people. But more importantly, we learned about the neuroscience of consumer video game design. How by hitting the right balance of reward and frustration, skill and challenge, we can maximize dopamine release in the brain. We can trigger learning. We can improve skill, increase retention, and ultimately drive behavior change. And we explored the massive gap between the state of the art in entertainment and the state of the art in medical training, which is decades behind. And if COVID-19 has showed us anything, it's revealed these systemic problems in our healthcare system. My wife is a physician. She sees COVID patients, and like much of the rest of the country, they ran out of PPE. So this photo, this was me last month in my basement, engineering makeshift PPE out of a snorkel mask, some CPAP filters, and a voice amplifier, and then pressure testing it in my bathtub. COVID has exacerbated systemic problems in our healthcare system. And sadly, the training of medical professionals is no exception. But now we have a new set of weapons in the arsenal. Thankfully, I run an 85-person company that makes video games for doctors. We have the top video game developers and designers in the country who've worked on everything from Mortal Kombat to Words with Friends, using the neuroscience and technology of games to improve the skills of medical professionals. Now, these folks are teamed up with over 150 physician advisors, capturing the challenges of medical practice for the over 600,000 medical professionals that are playing our games, up from 400,000 when I presented last year. Now, when COVID-19 hit, demand from our players on the front line was overwhelming. Case in point, we have a game already that helps you improve your skills on how to intubate difficult patient airways so you can place those patients on a ventilator. But the standard guidelines aren't designed for COVID patients. Those tools and techniques you would normally use can actually spread the virus further. They can potentially also harm the patient. So we looked around for guidelines, and all we could find at the time were a bunch of hastily assembled PDFs in Italian that had been put together by the Italian anesthesia societies because they were dealing with it first. So even if your Italian is better than Google Translate, a major problem still remains. Medical decision-making guidelines are incredibly complex. You can't memorize them, especially if you're stressed out and sleep deprived. The result? In real life, you learn these things through experience by making mistakes on live patients. Thankfully, at Level X, we had solved this particular problem over a year ago. I'm going to show this to you live on my smartphone. This is our Airway X app. I showed part of it last year. This game is filled with dozens of rare, difficult cases that have been submitted by anesthesiologists around the country. Here, doctors can earn CME credit from playing a video game. Over a year ago, we partnered with a major anesthesia society to create a strategy game that lets you play through a sequence of difficult intubation cases, making different decisions each time so you can understand the implications of each one. Within a matter of weeks, we updated it for COVID, based on the guidelines from the Italian societies and then the US societies when they became available. Our first patient here is confirmed COVID negative. Sure, I can put on PPE, but no points for that. Someone else might have needed that mask. Now, sometimes normal intubation fails, even on normal patients. Guidelines say, try again before taking more drastic action. Now, here's our first COVID positive patient. Her oxygen saturation is low, like many COVID patients, and when you try to intubate them, watch out. Their oxygen saturation can drop like a rock. Let's clear the room, and let's give her some oxygen. Now, in this case, I've used a device that I would normally use, but it's a device that can aerosolize the virus and put people in the room at risk. Now I can see the decisions that I've made and compare them to the guidelines. But first, let's move on to the next patient. This guy was brought into the ER from a car accident, and he tested COVID positive. So first, let's clear the room. Now, COVID airways are friable, meaning they bleed easily, and no matter what I try to do with this patient, his airway just continues to get worse and worse and worse in an incredibly challenging case. I won't give away the winning sequence. Managing airways is just one of the many challenges posed by COVID. Next, I'm going to jump into our Palm X game. This game is filled with more rare and difficult cases. Cases like this one, where a carpenter was holding a bunch of nails in his mouth while he was hammering, accidentally inhaled one, and punctured his bronchus. This is a physics puzzle where you need to figure out what is the right sequence of movements and angles to remove that embedded nail. And what you'll see is, almost no matter what angle I try, that nail is stuck. I won't reveal the right answer. But surgery is only one of many puzzles in medicine. Take diagnosing a difficult patient, for example. That's a reductive reasoning puzzle. Now, in the COVID case, patients can present with all sorts of symptoms. In one of these cases, here from New York, a patient presented to the ER with respiratory symptoms. They thought it was COVID, but it was actually a pulmonary embolism, which you would want to treat very differently. So here I'll jump into a different case. In this game, your patient presents with a chief complaint. Male with cough, fever, low oxygen saturation. You need to ask the right questions and choose the right tests in the right order to eliminate possibilities until you arrive at the right answer. No points for guessing. So here you can see the different questions that we ask and the different tests that we run eliminate different diseases. And so now I get an extremely rewarding sequence. As I can see, I've gone from 17 possibilities down to 5. Only one of the patients in this case sequence actually has COVID. And in some cases, you may not have access to a reliable COVID test, as is the case for many doctors today. You need to deduce your way there. The COVID-19 content I just showed you was supported by an expedited educational grant from the J&J Institute. There's a lot more we are working on, and of course we could use your support. Building game content to help frontline medical professionals improve their skills in ventilator management, COVID cardiac scenarios, treatment, and more. And we could use help to distribute that content, which is available for free on mobile and distribute it worldwide. Thank you.